We caught you right in the middle of something amazing.
How you doing, Foy?
Yeah, keeping very well. It's sunny. When Aberfeldy when the sun's out in Aberfeldy, the town stops.
Thank you so much for coming to join us, Foy. John and I, the last live gig that we saw before lockdown was you in Glasgow.
It's kind of weird to sort of do like a full circle at this, do you know what I mean?
That was before the apocalypse, guys. I was really loath to say this and talk about this in the early days of lockdown because I didn't want to sicken people, but lockdown was perfect for me. I wasn't planning on touring anyway. I was taking the year off. In fact, I had one tour in the diary in February, March 2020, where I was supporting Anderson East. And I pulled that tour, even it's the first and last time I'll ever pull a tour. I pulled that tour even before we knew about COVID-19, because my head was like, no, why am I going back out on the road? I need to be writing. I need to get this record, finished. I'd sort of caught a thread with it, and I just didn't want to be out on the road. It's a hard station, and it's a harder station now. I feel, not to sound all pessimistic about the future of live music or live events in general, but it's going to be an even tougher road for musicians coming up now, I'd say, especially touring in Europe, unless they can get that sorted out.
Can you talk to us a little bit about why you think it's so important to put out a record that's recorded live?
It's just about keeping a continuous flow of work, and also when you're going to do a live show and it's being recorded and put out, it puts you're on the edge of the cliff a little bit, aren't you? Any mistakes are going to show up now. It's going to be known. And that kind of creates its own energy. Mm-hmm. I mean, live's got that energy anyway. It's like theater, isn't it? It's there, it's happening in real time. So it's got that energy naturally. But I think if you get yourself even more on the edge, like kind of knowing it's being recorded, for instance, seems to do it for me. It's like being in the studio when you're recording the tape. Everyone plays a little bit different. There's more commitment somehow. Bangor Abbey, we recorded both nights. Live in London, we recorded all 3 nights. Plenty of ways it'd be like patching up where I'd made a balls, you know what I mean? When I went to record The Wild Swan, it wasn't even called The Wild Swan. There was no song called The Wild Swan, I don't think. I've always been a fan of that, just a drone, and a voice taking the melody, and I just wanted a song like that. And I was newly in love. You know what it's like when you fall in love afresh. Everything's possible again, isn't it? Let's build a bower in the mountains and we'll have kids and we'll be happy ever after, which obviously just turns to a load of nappies. Right, you know what I mean? And just, looking at each other like zombies in the mornings.
When's that song coming?
Oh, listen, there's plenty of them. But you know what? I remember recording that song with a guy called Tim Lawler. He's an incredible piano player, keyboard player. And I stood behind him, almost like a wedding march. Yeah, and sang for ages. I think I cut some verses out. I think we did. We just kept rolling and rolling and rolling until I got one that felt, that's the one. Well, John and I collaborate on a few things. I do music for his. We're doing like a little sort of video series of poems with music to it. So, and we kind of work together a lot. And I trust him implicitly. And I, when he was coming on the tour, I said, like, will you get up and do a poem in The Wild Swan at the end of it? And he just smiled and went, I know exactly the one to do. You just knew. It's a beautiful poem. And he's an incredible poet. Oh, Aberfeldy has been a godsend. Walk out in the back garden and you're surrounded by the mountains and the sound of the river and whatnot. It's a different kettle of fish altogether. Yeah, I need silence. The more quiet it is, the better the situation as far as I'm concerned. I created spaces when I lived in London. I had writing spaces that I shared, rented off people that were quiet, for that very reason, somewhere that just felt like it was away. But there's nothing like natural quiet, you know what I mean? I open my back door and it's just naturally quiet. And it's like that all day and the odd car will pass.
How do you decide who you want to collaborate with? Is it just a natural thing that comes?
It is natural for the most part, and then it starts to, like anything, snowball, gathers its own momentum, Do you know what? Ed Sheeran reached out to me, like before I'd even met him. He got my email from a mutual friend of ours, Michael Leckie, and he emailed me and sent me a couple of songs and asked me would I co-write with him. And I got back saying, look, these songs are great, but I don't know how I don't really co-write, and I wouldn't even know I wouldn't know what, this is a vernacular that's not familiar to me. Didn't write on that first record at all, or with him. That world was alien to me. And then just through a strange turn of events, he had asked me to go on tour with him. And I thought, when's a 38-year-old man that sings songs like I do going to go on a bona fide pop tour? I got to do this or I'll regret it for the rest of my life, win, lose or draw. And I did, and we were just hanging, jamming guitars out, as is always the case. And we were writing a song. And to be honest, I didn't even know we were writing a song. We were just messing around. I kind of got into it by accident. And then we just wrote more and more and more. And then a couple of those songs come out. And then a few people come out and said, hey, would you want to write with me? And then it's like, yeah, you know, usually just going wherever I was invited, mostly for the first part, you know, especially if it looked good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a world that I ever thought that I would be in. And now that I do it relatively regular, I wish I'd started it sooner. It's just like exercise, really. You know what I mean? You're still as committed, or certainly I still feel as committed to getting a song that feels true and articulate, but it's not my vernacular. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get inside someone else's head, and that's a journey in and of itself. For instance, with, you know, when I'm writing on my own, there's no rush. There's never a rush. In a collaborative setting, as soon as an idea comes and you go, okay, we're going to jump on that, we're going to work on that, 9 times out of 10, the artist you're working with will have some kind of story. They'll immediately be mapping out what the song is. Whereas writing on my own, you know, it takes me a long time, usually, unless it's really obvious. When an idea comes, sort of just play with the idea for a bit. You know what I mean? Don't try and make it anything too quick, because there could be more to be gleaned there, you know. It takes more time to do it the way I do it. My days of 8 months on the road are just that, with a royal no chance. Been there, done it, couldn't afford the t-shirt, you know what I mean? Shirtless. And I am looking forward to these short bursts. It's a new record and a completely new band. I'm a big fan of Willie Nelson, and Willie Nelson's got so many great quotes, but one of the best ones is, if it ain't broke, break it. Kind of starting from scratch a little bit, but that's good. I'm looking forward to that. See how that goes. I'm not sure if there's any way of saying this without sounding like a narcissistic little. You know what I mean? I was taking that time off anyway to focus on the record, and so I just listened to Signs of Life mostly, and the songs that didn't make Signs of Life, and listened for new songs that didn't exist when I started that are now on Signs of Life. You know.
Foy, how many guitars have you got?
It looks awesome.
I know, right? I only need one more though. I'd sooner sell the guitars than the pool table. I'll tell you that. That pool table has kept me sane. That's one thing that I've really relied on. I'm not even being facetious, like mentally just coming out here and pushing wee balls around a table.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come to us.
Appreciate it.
Not at all. Lovely chatting. Good talking. Thanks.
Thanks, Foy.
Later.
All the best.
Bye.